Welcome to Talking Truth Ministries, where our mission is to share the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of our ability. Our vision is to lead someone to the epitome of truth, Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life. And he said that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that's what it's all about. Being free from the forces of this world that would lie, deceive, and ultimately try to destroy each and every one of us. And I am going to fix this because I'm tired of it being wrong. There. So welcome tonight. And it's Flat Friday. And so I'm going to finish off the 200 Flat Earth clues that were presented by Eric Dubay a long time ago. He's the first person I ever heard of this about Flat Earth. Don't necessarily agree with everything he believes, but he made pretty good arguments for the Flat Earth. So I'm just going to go ahead and go right into it. Before I do, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and share this channel with your friends. I'd like to grow this channel. I'm trying to improve things. One of these days, I'm going to get my musical intro included in this if I can figure out how to make it record properly so you can actually hear it on the channel. But anyway, so let's just go ahead and start. I'm at clue 151. If Earth were a spinning ball revolving around the sun, it would actually be impossible for star trail photos to show perfect circles, even at the North Pole. Since the Earth is also allegedly moving 67,000, actually 66,600 miles per hour. So there's an interesting 666 in there. But around the miles per hour around the sun moving 500,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way, and the entire galaxy going 670 million miles per hour. These four contradictory motions would make star trail time lapses all show irregular curved lines. Well, that's only three. Don't forget our it's not talking about our 1,040 miles per hour rotation on our axis. 152. In 2003, three university geography professors collaborated in an experiment to prove that the state of Kansas is indeed actually flatter than a pancake. Using topographical geodetic surveys covering over 80,000 square miles, it was determined that Kansas has a flatness ratio of 0.9997 over the entire state, while the average pancake, precisely measured using a confocal laser microscope, comes in at 0.957, making Kansas thereby literally flatter than a pancake, which would be impossible on a globe. But anyway, so number 153, quoting Reverend Thomas Milner's Atlas of Physical Geography, we find that vast areas exhibit a perfectly dead level, scarcely a rise existing through 1,500 miles from the Carpathians to the Urals. South of the Baltic, the country is so flat that a prevailing north wind will drive the waters of the Statner Half into the mouth of the Oder and give the river a backward flow 30 or 40 miles. The plains of Venezuela and New Granada and South America, chiefly on the left of the Orinoco, are termed llanos or level fields. I'm not sure how to say it. I think it's llanos. Often in the space of 270 square miles, the surface does not vary a single foot. The Amazon only falls 12 feet in the last 700 miles of its course. The La Plata has only a descent of 1/33 of an inch a mile. Number 154, the Felix Baumgartner Red Bull dive outside camera shows the same amount of curvature of Earth from surface level to jump height, proving to be a deceiving fish-eyed wide-angle lens, while the inside regular camera shows a perfectly flat horizon, eye level at 128,000 feet, which is only consistent with a flat plane. Number 155. Some people claim to have seen the curvature of the earth out the airplane windows. Well, I'll tell you for a fact, the last time I flew on a plane, I didn't see no curvature, which was in 2020. No, it was before that. I forget. The glass used in all commercial airplanes, however, is curved to remain flush with the fuselage. This creates a slight effect mixed with confirmation bias people mistake for being the alleged curvature of the earth. In actuality, the fact that you can see the horizon at eye level at 35,000 feet out both port and starboard side windows proves the earth is flat. If the earth were a ball, no matter how big, the horizon would stay exactly where it was, and you would have to look down further and further to see the horizon at all. Looking straight out the window at 35,000 feet, you should see nothing but outer space from the port and starboard windows, as the earth horizon are supposed to be below you. If they are visible at eye level outside both side windows, it's because the earth is flat. 156. People also claim to see curvature in GoPro or other high altitude camera footage of the horizon. While it is true that the horizon often appears convex in such footage, it just as often appears concave or flat, depending on the tilt or movement of the camera. The effect is simply a distortion due to wide-angle lenses. In lens-corrected footage taken without wide-angle technology, all amateur high-altitude horizon shots appear perfectly flat. 157. If gravity magically dragged the atmosphere along with the spinning ball Earth, that would mean the atmosphere near the equator would be spinning at around 1,000 miles per hour. The atmosphere over the mid-latitudes would be spinning around 500 miles per hour and gradually slower down to the poles, where the atmosphere would be unaffected at 0 miles per hour. In reality, however, the atmosphere at every point on Earth is equally unaffected by this alleged force, as it has never been measured or calculated and proven non-existent by the ability of airplanes to fly unabated in any direction without experiencing any such atmospheric changes. 158. If gravity magically dragged the atmosphere along with the spinning ball Earth, that would mean the higher the altitude, the faster the spinning atmosphere would have to be turning around the center of rotation. In reality, however, if this were happening, then rain and fireworks would behave entirely differently, as they fell down through progressively slower and slower spinning atmosphere. Hot air balloons would also be forced steadily faster eastwards as they ascended through the ever-increasing atmospheric speeds. If, number 159, if there were progressively faster and faster spinning atmosphere, the higher the altitude, that wowould mean it would have to abruptly end at some key altitude where the fastest layer of gravitized spinning atmosphere meets the supposed non-gravitized, non-spinning, non-atmospheric infinite vacuum space. NASA has never mentioned what altitude this impossible feat allegedly happens, but it is easily philosophically refuted by the simple fact that vacuums cannot exist connected to non-vacuums while maintaining the properties of a vacuum, not to mention the effects such a transition would have on a rocket spaceship would be disastrous. It is impossible for rockets or any type of jet propulsion engines to work in the alleged non-atmosphere of vacuum space, because without air or atmosphere to push against, there's nothing to propel the vehicle forward. Instead, the rockets and shuttles would be sent spinning around their own axes uncontrollably in all directions like a gyroscope. It would be impossible to fly to the moon or go in any direction whatsoever, especially if gravity were real and constantly sucking you towards the closest, densest body. 161. If Earth were really a ball, There would be no reason to use rockets for flying into outer space anyway, because simply flying an airplane straight at any altitude for long enough should and would send you off into outer space. To prevent their airplanes from flying tangent to the Earth ball, pilots would have to constantly course correct downwards, or else within just a few hours, the average commercial airliner traveling 500 miles per hour would find themselves lost in outer space. The fact that this never happens, artificial horizons remain level at pilots' desired altitudes and do not require constant downwards adjustments, proves the Earth is not a ball. 162. All NASA, excuse me, all NASA and other space agency rocket launches never go straight up. Every rocket forms a parabolic curve, peaks out, and inevitably starts falling back to Earth. The rockets which are declared successful are those which don't explode or start falling too soon, but make it out of range of spectator view before crashing down into restricted waters and recovered. There is no magic altitude where rockets or anything else can simply go up, 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 and then suddenly just start free floating in space. This is all a science fiction illusion created by wires, green screens, dark pools, some permed hair, and zero-G planes. 163. NASA and other space agencies have been caught time and again with air bubbles forming and floating off in their official outer space footage. Astronauts have also been caught using scuba space gear, kicking their legs to move, and astronaut Luca Parmitano even almost drowned when water started filling up his helmet while allegedly on a spacewalk. It is admitted that astronauts train for their spacewalks in underwater training facilities like NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. But what is obvious from their space bubbles and other blunders is that all official spacewalk footage is also faked and filmed underwater. 164. Analysis of many interior videos from the International Space Station have shown the use of camera tricks such as green screens, harnesses, and even wildly permed hair to achieve a zero-gravity type effect. Footage of astronauts seemingly floating in the zero gravity of their space station is indistinguishable from Vomit Comet zero-G airplane footage. By flying parabolic maneuvers, this zero-G floating effect can be achieved over and over again, then edited together. For longer, uncut shots, NASA has been caught using simple wires and green screen technology. 165. NASA claims one can observe the International Space Station pass overhead, proving its existence. Yet analysis of the ISS, seen through zoom cameras, proves it to be some type of hologram or drone, not a physical floating space base. As you can see in my documentary, ISS Hoax, when zooming in and out, the ISS dramatically and impossibly changes shape and color, displaying a prismatic rainbow effect until coming into focus, much like an old TV turning on or off. (166) The geostationary communication satellite was first created by Freemason science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke and supposedly became science fact just a decade later. Before this, radio, television, and navigation systems like LORAN and Decca were already well established and worked fine using only ground-based technologies. Nowadays, huge fiber optics cables connect the internet across oceans. Gigantic cell towers triangulate GPS signals, and ionospheric propagation allows radio waves to be bounced all without the aid of the science fiction based bestseller known as satellites. Boy, I had it. struggled to get spitting that one out, that's for sure. Should have brought me a drink down, I guess. 167. Satellites are allegedly floating around in the thermosphere where temperatures are claimed to be upwards of 4,530 degrees Fahrenheit. The metals used in satellites, however, such as aluminum, gold, and titanium, have melting points of 1,221 degrees, 1,948, and 3,034 degrees, respectively, all far lower than they could possibly handle. 168. So-called satellite phones have been found to have reception problems in countries like Kazakhstan with very few cell towers. If the Earth was a ball with 20,000 plus satellites surrounding, such blackouts should not regularly occur in any rural countryside areas. 169. So-called satellite TV dishes are almost pointed or positioned at a 45-degree angles towards the nearest ground-based repeater tower. If TV antenna were actually picking up signals from satellites 100 plus miles in space, most dishes should be pointing more or less straight up to the sky. The fact that satellite dishes are never pointing straight up and almost always positioned at a 45-degree angle proves they are picking up ground-based tower signals and not outer space satellites. 170. People even claim to see satellites with their naked eyes, but this is ridiculous considering they are smaller than a bus and allegedly 100 plus miles away. It is impossible to see anything so small that far away. Even using telescopes, no one claims to discern the shape of satellites, but rather describes seeing passing moving lights, which could easily be any number of things from airplanes to drones to shooting stars or other unidentified flying objects. 171. NASA claims there are upward of 20,000 satellites floating around Earth's upper atmosphere, sending us radio, television, GPS, and taking pictures of the planet. All these supposed satellite pictures, however, are admittedly composite images edited in Photoshop. They claim to receive ribbons of imagery from satellites, which must then be spliced together to create composite images of the Earth, all of which are clearly CGI and not photographs. If Earth were truly a ball with 20,000 satellites orbiting, it would be a simple matter to mount a camera and take some real photographs. The fact that no real satellite photographs of the supposed ball Earth ever exists in NASA's ribbons of composite CG imagery is further proof we are not being told the truth. So I'm going to take a 3-minute break and go get me something to drink because my mouth is dry. Stand by. Much better. Thank you. Okay. 171. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. I gotta switch the page. 172. If you pick any cloud in the sky and watch for several minutes, two things will happen. The clouds will move and they will morph, gradually changing shape. In official NASA footage of the spinning ball Earth, such as the Galileo time-lapse video, however, clouds are constantly shown for 24 hours at a time, not moving or morphing whatsoever. This is completely impossible. Further proof that NASA produces fake CGI videos and further evidence that Earth is not a spinning ball. Catch my breath. 173. NASA has several alleged photographs of the ball Earth which show several exact duplicate cloud patterns. The likelihood of having 2 or 3 clouds of the exact same shape in the same picture is as likely as finding 2 or 3 people with exactly the same fingerprints. In fact, it is solid proof that the clouds are copied and pasted in a computer program and that such pictures showing a ball-shaped Earth are fakes. 174. NASA graphics artists have placed things like faces, dragons, and even the word sex into cloud patterns over their various ball Earth pictures. Their recent 2015 Pluto pictures even clearly have a picture of Disney's Pluto the dog layered into the background. Such blatant fraud goes unnoticed by the hypnotized masses, but provides further proof of the illegitimacy of NASA and their spinning ball planet mythos. 175. Professional photo analysts have dissected several NASA images of the ball Earth and found undeniable proof of computer editing. For example, images of the Earth allegedly taken from the moon have proven to be copied and pasted in, as evidenced by rectangular cuts found in the black background around the Earth by adjusting brightness and contrast levels. If they were truly on the moon and Earth were truly a ball, there would be no need to fake such pictures. (176) When NASA's images of the ball Earth are compared with one another, the coloration of the land and oceans and relative size of continents are consistently so drastically different from one another as to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that pictures are all fake. 177. In the documentary, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, and I've seen it. You really need to watch it. It's almost humorous. You can watch the official leaked NASA footage showing Apollo 11 astronauts Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins for almost an hour using transparencies and camera tricks to fake shots of a round Earth. They communicate over audio with Control in Houston about how to accurately stage the shot, and someone keeps prompting them on how to effectively manipulate the camera to achieve the desired effect. First, they blacked out all the windows except for a downward-facing circular one, which they aimed the camera towards from several feet away. This created the illusion of a ball-shaped Earth surrounded by the blackness of space, when in fact it was simply a round window in their dark cabin. Neil Armstrong claimed at this point to be 130,000 miles from Earth, halfway to the moon. But when camera tricks were finished, the viewer could see for themselves the astronauts were not more than a couple dozen miles above the Earth's surface, likely flying in a high-altitude plane. 178. People claim Google Earth somehow proves the ball model without realizing that Google Earth is simply a composite program of images taken from high-altitude planes and street-level car cameras superimposed onto a CGI model of a ball Earth. The same could be just as easily modeled onto a square Earth or any other shape, and therefore cannot be used as proof of Earth's rotundity. And I might even add some, if I haven't done it already, I might do it again tonight if I have some screenshots I took of Google Earth that might be interesting. But we'll see after this. 179. If the Earth were constantly spinning eastwards 1,000 miles per hour, then airplane flight durations going eastward versus westwards should be significantly different. If the average commercial airline travels 500 miles per hour, it follows that westbound equatorial flights should reach their destination at approximately thrice the speed as their eastbound return flights. In reality, however, the differences in east-westbound flight durations usually amount to a matter of minutes and nothing near what would occur at a 1,000 mile per hour spinning ball Earth. 180. The spinning ball model dictates that the Earth and atmosphere will be moving together at approximately 500 miles per hour at the mid latitudes where an LA to New York City flight takes place. The average commercial airline traveling 500 miles per hour takes 5.5 hours traveling east with the alleged rotation of the Earth. So the return flight west should take only 2.75 hours, but in fact, we find the average New York City to Los Angeles flight takes 6 hours. A flight time totally inconsistent with the spinning ball model. 181. Flights eastward with the alleged spin of the ball, Earth, from Tokyo to Los Angeles take an average of 10.5 hours. Therefore, the return flights westward against the alleged spin should take an average of 5.25 hours, but in fact, take an average of 11.5 hours. Another flight time totally inconsistent with the spinning ball model. 182. Flights eastward with the alleged spin of the ball from New York to London take an average of 7 hours. Therefore, the return flights westward against the alleged spin should take an average of 3.5 hours. But in actual fact, take an average of 7.5 hours, a flight time totally inconsistent again with the spinning ball model. Flights, or 183, flights eastward from Chicago to Boston with the alleged spin of the ball Earth take an average of 2.25 hours. Therefore, the return flights westward against the alleged spin should take an average of just over an hour, but in actual fact, take an average of 2.75 hours. Once again, completely inconsistent with the spinning ball model. Kind of seeing a little bit of a pattern here, don't you think? 184. Flights eastward from Paris to Rome with the alleged spin of the ball Earth take an average of 2 hours. Therefore, the return flight westwards against the alleged spin should take an average of 1 hour, but in actual fact, take an average flight duration of 2 hours, 10 minutes, a flight totally, again, inconsistent with the spinning ball model. 185. We are told that the Earth and atmosphere spin together at such perfect uniform velocity that no one in history has ever seen, heard, felt, or measured the supposed 1,000 mile per hour movement. This is then often compared to traveling in a car at uniform velocity, where we only feel the movement during acceleration or deceleration. In reality, however, even with eyes closed, windows up, over smooth tar in a luxury car at a mere uniform 50 miles per hour, movement absolutely can be felt. At 20 times this speed, Earth's imaginary 1,000 mile per hour spin would almost certainly be noticeable, felt, seen, and heard by all. 186. People sensitive to motion sickness feel distinct unease and physical discomfort from motion as slight as an elevator or a train ride. This means that the 1,000 mile per hour alleged uniform spin of the Earth has no effect on such people, but add an extra 50 miles per hour uniform velocity. But okay, let me read that again. This means that the 1,000 mile per hour alleged uniform spin of the Earth has no effect on such people, but add an extra 50 miles per hour uniform velocity of a car, and their stomach starts turning nuts. Ugh. The idea that motion sickness is nowhere apparent in anyone at 1,000 miles per hour, but suddenly comes about at 1,050 miles per hour is ridiculous. It proves the Earth is not in motion whatsoever. Whew. Boy, some of these sentences are hard to spit out here. The second law of thermodynamics, otherwise known as the law of entropy, along with the fundamental principles of friction resistance, determine the impossibility of Earth being a uniformly spinning ball. Over time, the spinning ball Earth would experience measurable amounts of drag, constantly slowing the spin and lengthening the amounts of hours per day. As not the slightest such change has ever been observed in all of recorded history, it is absurd to assume the Earth has ever moved an inch. 188. Over the years, NASA has twice changed their story regarding the shape of the Earth. At first, they maintained Earth was a perfect sphere, which later changed to an oblate spheroid flattening at the poles, and then changed again to being pear-shaped as the southern hemisphere allegedly bulges out as well. Unfortunately for NASA, however, none of their official pictures show an oblate spheroid or pear-shaped Earth. All their pictures, contrary to their words, show a spherical and clearly CGI fake Earth. $189. The Bible, the Quran, okay, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and many other holy books describe and purport the existence of a geocentric stationary flat Earth. For example, 1 Corinthians 16:30 and Psalm 96:10 both read, "He has fixed the earth firm, immovable." And Psalm 93:1 says, "The world is also established that it cannot be moved." The Bible also repeatedly affirms that the earth is outstretched as a plane with the outstretched heavens everywhere above, not all around, giving a scriptural proof the earth is not a spinning ball. 190. Cultures the world over throughout history have all described and purported the existence of a geocentric stationary flat earth. Egyptians, Indians, Mayans, Chinese, Native Americans, and literally every ancient civilization on Earth had a geocentric flat Earth cosmology. Before Pythagoras, the idea of a spinning ball Earth was non-existent, and even after Pythagoras remained an obscure minority view until 2,000 years later, when Copernicus began reviving the heliocentric theory. $191. From Pythagoras to Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton, to modern astronauts like Aldrin, Armstrong, and Collins, to director of NASA and Grand Commander of the 33rd degree, C. Fred Kleinknecht, the founding fathers of the spinning ball mythos have all been Freemasons. The fact that so many members of this, the largest and oldest secret society in existence, have all been co-conspirators bringing about this literal planetary revolution is beyond the possibility of coincidence and provides proof of organized collusion in creating and maintaining this multi-generational deception. And I'm just going to say this, behind those groups is Lucifer, because they worship Lucifer or Satan or whatever you want to call him. Just saying. 192. Quoting Terra Firma by David Wardlaw Scott, "The system of the universe as taught by modern astronomers," yeah, monsters, maybe that was a Freudian slip. "Modern astronomy is being founded entirely on theory, for the truth of which they are unable to advance one single real proof. They have entrenched themselves in a conspiracy of silence and decline to answer any objections which may be made to their hypotheses. Copernicus himself, who revived the theory of the heathen philosopher Pythagoras, and his great exponent Sir Isaac Newton, confessed that their system of a revolving earth was only a possibility and could not be proved by facts. It is only their followers who have decorated with the name of an exact science. Yeah, according to them, the most exact of all the sciences. Yet one astronomer, Royal for England, once said, speaking of the motion of the whole solar system, the matter is left in a most delightful state of uncertainty, and I shall be very glad if anyone can help me out. What a very sad position for an exact science to be in is in this. 193. No child or one of those words again. No child or unindoctrinated man in their right mind would ever conclude or even conceive, given to their own devices based on their own personal observations, that the earth was a spinning ball revolving around the sun. Such imaginative theories nowhere present in anyone's daily experience require and have required massive amounts of constant propaganda to uphold the illusion. 194. From David Wardlaw Scott. I remember being taught when a boy that the earth was a great ball revolving in a very rapid rate around the sun. And when I expressed to my teacher, my peers, that the waters of the oceans would tumble off, I was told that they were prevented from doing so by Newton's great law of gravitation, which kept everything in its proper place. I presume that my countenance must have shown some signs of incredulity, for my teacher immediately added, I could show you a direct proof of this. A man can whirl around his head a pail filled with water without it being spilled, and so in like manner can the oceans be carried around the sun without losing a drop. As this illustration was evidently intended to settle the matter, I then said no more upon the subject. Had such been proposed to me afterwards as a man, I would have answered somewhat as follows. Sir, I beg to say that the illustration you have given of a man whirling a pail of water around his head and the oceans revolving around the sun does not in any degree confirm your argument, because the water under entirely different circumstances. But to be of any value, the conditions in each case must be the same, which here they are not. The pail is a hollow vessel which holds the water inside it, whereas according to your teaching, the earth is a ball with a continuous curvature outside, which in agreement with the laws of nature did not retain any. Which is true. And I used to think the same thing too, but I always thought it did make sense, but who was I? But I'm smarter now. 195. Astronomers say the magical magnetism of gravity is what keeps all the oceans of the earth stuck to the ball Earth. They claim that because the Earth is so massive, by virtue of this mass, it creates a magic force able to hold people, oceans, and atmosphere tightly clung to the underside of the spinning ball. Unfortunately, however, they cannot provide any practical example of this on a scale smaller than the planetary. A spinning wet tennis ball, for instance, has the exact opposite effect of the supposed ball Earth. Any water poured over it simply falls off the sides, and giving it a spin results in water flying off 360 degrees like a dog shaking after a bath. Astronomers concede the wet tennis ball example displays the opposite effect of their supposed ball Earth, but claim that at some unknown mass, the magic adhesive properties of grass suddenly kick in, allowing the spinning wet tennis ball Earth to keep every drop of gravitized water stuck to the surface. When such an unproven theory goes against all experience and common sense, it is high time to drop the theory. 196. Quoting Marshall Hall, in short, the sun, moon, and stars are actually doing precisely what everyone throughout all history has seen them do. We do not believe what our eyes tell us because we have been taught a counterfeit system which demands that we believe what has never been confirmed by observation or experiment. That counterfeit system demands that the earth rotate on an axis every 24 hours at a speed over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. No one has ever seen or felt such movement, nor seen or felt the 67,000 miles per hour speed of the Earth's alleged orbit around the sun, or its 500,000 miles per hour alleged speed around a galaxy, or its retreat from an alleged Big Bang at over 670 million miles per hour. Remember, no experiment has ever shown the Earth to be moving. Add to the fact that the alleged rotational speed we've all been taught as scientific fact must decrease every inch or mile one goes north or south of the equator. And it becomes readily apparent that such things as accurate aerial bombing in World War II down a chimney from 25,000 feet with a plane going any direction at high speed would have been impossible if calculated on an Earth moving below at several hundred miles per hour and changing constantly with the latitude. 197. Some people claim there is no motive for such a grand scale deception and that flat or a ball makes no difference. By removing Earth from the motionless center of the universe, these Masons have moved us physically and metaphysically from a place of supreme importance to one of complete nihilistic indifference. If the earth is the center of the universe, then the ideas of God, creation, and a purpose for human existence are resplendent. But if the Earth is just one of billions of planets revolving around billions of stars and billions of galaxies, then the idea of God, creation, and a specific purpose for Earth and human existence becomes highly implausible. By surreptitiously indoctrinating us into their scientific materialistic sun worship, not only do we lose faith in anything beyond the material, we gain absolute faith in materiality, superficiality, status, selfishness, hedonism, and consumerism. If there is no God and everyone is just an accident, then all that really matters is me, me, me. They have turned Madonna, the mother of God, into a material girl living in a material world. The rich, powerful corporations with slick sun cult logos sell us idols to worship, slowly taking over the world while we tacitly believe their science, vote for their politicians, buy their products, listen to their music, and watch their movies, sacrificing our souls at the altar of materialism. To quote Morris Klein, the heliocentric theory, by putting the sun at the center of the universe, made man appear to be just one of a possible host of wanderers drifting through a cold sky. It seemed less likely that he was born to live gloriously and to attain paradise upon his death. Less likely, too, was it that he was the object of God's ministrations. Sorry, I'm a little passionate about that idea. 198. Some say that the idea of an intergenerational worldwide conspiracy to delude the masses sounds implausible or unrealistic, but these people need only familiarize themselves with the works and writings of Freemasons themselves. For example, John Robison, who exposed this in his 1978 book, Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe, carried out in the secret meetings of the Freemasons, Illuminati, and reading societies. Supreme Commander of the 33rd degree. I'm going to read that one again. 198. I don't. Some say that the idea of an intergenerational worldwide conspiracy to delude the masses sounds implausible, unrealistic. But these people need only familiarize themselves with the works and writings of Freemasons themselves. For example, John Robison, who exposed this in his book, 1978 book, Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe, carried out in the secret meetings of the Freemasons, Illuminati, and reading societies. Okay, I guess I did read it right. It just didn't come out right. Supreme Commander of the 33rd degree, Albert Pike, was quite forthcoming in several letters regarding the Masons' ultimate goal of world domination. And in the Zionist Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, the exact plan by which this would be, it's been carried out, is completely disclosed. Now, 199, From Foundations of Many Generations by E. Eschini, the one thing the fable of the revolving earth has done, it has shown the terrible power of a lie. A lie has the power to make a man a mental slave, so that he dares not look back the evidence of his own senses. Hold on. He dares not back the evidence of his own senses. To deny the plain and obvious movement of the sun he sees before him. When he feels himself standing on an earth utterly devoid of motion at the suggestion of someone else, he is prepared to accept that he is spinning furiously around. Ooh, excuse me. When he sees a bird flying and gaining over the ground, he is prepared to believe that the ground is really traveling a great number of times faster than the bird. Finally, in order to uphold the imagination of a madman, he is prepared to accuse his maker of forming him a sensiferous lie. Number 200. And finally, from Dr. Robotham. Thus, we see that this Newtonian philosophy is devoid of consistency. Its details are the result of an entire violation of the laws of legitimate reasoning, and all its premises are assumed. It is, in fact, nothing more than assumption upon assumption, and the conclusions derived therefrom are willfully considered as things proved and to be employed as truths to substantiate the first and fundamental assumptions. Such a juggle and jumble of fancies and falsehoods extended and intensified as in theoretical astronomy is calculated to make the unprejudiced inquirer revolt with horror from the terrible conjuration which has been practiced upon him, to sternly resolve to resist its further progress, to endeavor to overthrow the entire edifice, and to bury it in its ruins the false honors which have been associated with its fabricators, and which still attach to its devotees, for the learning, the patience, the perseverance and devotion for which they have been examples, honor and applause need not be withheld, but their false reasoning, the advantages they've taken of the general ignorance of mankind in respect to astronomical subjects, and the unfounded theories they have advanced and defended cannot be otherwise than regretted and ought to be by every possible means uprooted. So there, between these three programs, I have shared 200 proofs that the Earth is not a spinning ball in outer space. It's an utter fallacy. Right to it. So here's from Google Earth. I did I did all this myself, and then I did screenshots. This is South America. You could take the you could do a you draw this line around and it'll show you the perimeter, the miles, and then the area in square. Well, this one's in square kilometers. I must not have changed. But anyways, you can get the miles in the perimeter of the area plus the square miles enclosed in it. So it says in there. So this one is 30 million square kilometers, and then the perimeter is 14,000 square miles around. And again, the same thing with North America. You can, that's an interesting shape I made, isn't it? Looks like a sheep. But again, you can determine the square mile in the area, the distance around in the area. The same thing with, I think this is Asia. Or no, this is Africa. I'm sorry. This is Africa. Then you got Asia. Or Africa again. Then you got Australia. But then look at the North Pole. Isn't that kind of weird? The shape. Now let's look at what's supposedly Antarctica. Now, mind you, I did this myself. This is not no Photoshop. You can do it yourself. Go to Google Earth and give it a try. For some reason, you cannot draw a circle all the way around Antarctica. Probably because Antarctica is actually a circle around the edge of the Earth. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah, just something that I discovered watching Dave Weiss. He did this, so I said, well, I'm gonna try this myself, and sure enough, that's what it did. So this is what they're talking about. Now, the high priest of scientism, Neil deGrasse Tyson, pardon me, can't help it. First says Earth is an oblate spheroid. Then he says it's a pear shape, but yet NASA says it's a sphere. So what is it, guys? What is it? Is it which one of these is true? Oh, gee, they're all Freemason endorsed too. Isn't that interesting? Here is I'm just going to continue with some of these slides because it's 9:30. So this is what was at one time the Georgia Guidestones. It's in well, they're not there anymore, and I'll explain in a minute. This was erected in the early 80s by a man going by the name of R. Christian. That was not his real name, and him and his group of people, whoever he was representing, paid an enormous amount of money to have these this granite monument made. And just you'll have to, I'm not going to give you all the details, but it's basically the New World Order's plan for mankind. And what's relevant to this is there was a there was a hole through one part of this monument, and I don't know where, that would point at the North Star. And now, according to the there's an ellipsis. There's a certain degree of movement, supposedly, that the in its movements that I can't think of what it's called, but basically over 40 years, the North Star would have moved out of center of that hole. And so up till modern times it sat there, nobody questioned it until flat earth movement started taking hold, and all of a sudden this monument was supposedly blown up by terrorists in the last year or two, and they didn't even really do an investigation. They just cleaned up the mess, and then that was the end of story. But many of us, especially David Weiss, who's promoting the idea that they didn't want it known that the North Star was still visible where it always has been, even though it should have moved a half a degree outside of the center of the hole, I think it is. Based on the precession of the planets and all this. I don't remember exactly how to explain it, but yeah, so look it up sometime. The Georgia Guidestones. You can't go see him anymore, which is a bummer, because my plans, goals was to go actually physically see it myself. But can't do that now. It's gone. So condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. So supposedly Albert Einstein said this. So many people just condemn this idea that the earth is not a ball without really checking into it. A lot of it because people are afraid to know the truth. But condemning something without really knowing anything about it is it's ignorant. You just can't do it. That's why people, don't investigate the Bible, they condemn it, and they don't investigate, the supposed Big Bang and evolution. They just accept it without investigation. Flat Earth really hasn't science and NASA proven the globe. Have they really? No. By all the evidence I just gave you in the 200 proofs can show you they haven't, but I've got, other stuff to share. And we're going to stop here this week, and I'm going to pick up next week on what does the Bible say. I know I've shared some scriptures, but I'm going to go through. I got a better list. And oh no, I've already done all this. I guess I won't. We're gonna go past. I've shown you all this. So disregard that portion of my program for tonight. We will pick up with some other information next week. So this is the impossible solar system right here. There's a video of it too. So I'm not going to go through all the Bible stuff again because we've already done that. But anyways, thanks for watching, and God bless and good night.